The first sign that humanity wasn't alone in the universe came on a quiet Tuesday morning in late autumn. Dr. Elena Vasquez, lead researcher at the SETI Institute, merely spilled her coffee as she stared at the computer screen before her. The signal was unmistakable, a clear, repeating pattern emanating from a point just beyond Mars' orbit. "Holy shit," she whispered, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she ran diagnostics to confirm what she was seeing. "It's real. It's actually real." Within hours, observatories around the world had confirmed the signal. Within days, the news had spread to every corner of the globe. Humanity held its collective breath, waiting to see what would happen next. They didn't have to wait long. 3 weeks after the initial signal, a fleet of sleek, silver ships appeared in Earth's orbit. They were beautiful in their alien design, all smooth curves and pulsing lights. As the world watched in awe, a message was broadcast simultaneously to every electronic device on the planet. "People of Earth," a melodious voice intoned in perfect English, "we come in peace. We are the Zarkan, and we have traveled across the stars to make contact with your species. We bring gifts of knowledge and technology. Prepare yourselves for a new era of prosperity and enlightenment." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Governments scrambled to organize welcoming committees, religious leaders proclaimed the fulfillment of ancient prophecies, and ordinary people took to the streets in celebration, their faces turned skyward in wonder and hope. But not everyone was convinced. Major Sarah Chen of the United States Space Force watched the aliens' arrival with a growing sense of unease. Something about the whole situation felt off, but she couldn't put her finger on what it was. "It's too perfect," she muttered to herself as she reviewed the footage for the 100th time. "Too polished. Too convenient." Her superior officer, Colonel Jack Harrison, seemed to share her concerns. He called a meeting of top military brass and scientists to discuss the situation. "I know everyone's excited about our new alien friends," Harrison began, his gruff voice filling the secure conference room. "But I think we need to approach this with caution. Dr. Vasquez, you've been studying their communications. What can you tell us?" Elena, still running on adrenaline and caffeine, stood up. "The Zarkan claim to be a peaceful, highly advanced civilization. They've offered to share technology that could solve our energy crisis, cure diseases, even reverse climate change. It all sounds incredible, but what?" Chen prompted. Elena hesitated. "But it's almost too good to be true. And there are inconsistencies in their language and behavior, subtle things that don't quite add up." Harrison nodded. "Major Chen, what's your take on their military capabilities?" Sarah stood, pulling up a holographic display of the alien ships. "Their technology is clearly far beyond ours. Energy shields, faster than light travel, weapons we can barely comprehend. If they wanted to, they could probably wipe us out without breaking a sweat." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "So why haven't they?" a young lieutenant asked. "That," Harrison said grimly, "is the million-dollar question." As the days passed, the Zarkan began to integrate themselves into human society. They established embassies in major cities, set up cultural exchange programs, and began sharing bits and pieces of their advanced technology. The world economy boomed as new industries sprang up overnight. But Sarah Chen couldn't shake her suspicions. She began to notice small discrepancies, alien representatives who seemed to change slightly in appearance from one day to the next, technology that worked in ways that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them. Late one night, as she was poring over surveillance footage, she noticed something strange. In the background of a news report about the alien embassy in New York, she saw a Zarkan diplomat talking to a human aide. But the alien's mouth wasn't moving in sync with the words. "It's like they're wearing masks," she realized with a jolt. She immediately called Elena Vasquez, who had been working on decoding more of the alien language. "Elena, I think I've found something. Can you meet me at the lab?" An hour later, the two women were hunched over a computer, analyzing the footage frame by frame. "You're right," Elena breathed. "It's some kind of holographic projection. But why? What are they hiding?" As if in answer to her question, an alarm began to blare throughout the facility. Sarah's comm unit crackled to life. "Major Chen, report to the command center immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Sarah and Elena exchanged a look of dread before sprinting towards the elevator. As they emerged into the command center, they were met with chaos. Screens around the room showed live feeds from around the world. And everywhere, the same terrifying scene was playing out. The beautiful silver ships of the Zarkan were opening fire on Earth's major cities. The invasion had begun. As they watched in horror, the holographic disguises of the aliens flickered and failed, revealing their true forms: insectoid creatures with multiple limbs and chitinous exoskeletons. Their peaceful overtures had been nothing but a ruse, a way to lull humanity into a false sense of security while they positioned their forces for a global attack. Colonel Harrison's voice cut through the din. "People, I need options. How do we fight back?" But as reports flooded in from around the world, it became clear that humanity was woefully unprepared for this threat. The aliens' weapons cut through Earth's most advanced defenses like they were tissue paper. Military bases were reduced to rubble in minutes. Communications networks were shattered. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Elena, her face pale but determined. "I have an idea," the scientist said, "but it's crazy and it might get us killed." Sarah managed a grim smile. "Crazy is all we've got left. What's the plan?" Elena quickly outlined her theory, that the aliens' holographic technology might be the key to their other advanced systems. If they could disrupt it on a large scale, it might give Earth's forces a fighting chance. "We'd need access to one of their ships," Sarah pointed out. "Then that's what we'll get," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. As alarms continued to blare and the world they knew crumbled around them, the two women set out on what seemed like an impossible mission. They didn't know if they would succeed or even survive the next few hours, but they knew one thing for certain: humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. The deception was over. The real war was about to begin. The world was in chaos. Major cities across the globe lay in ruins, their once proud skylines reduced to smoldering rubble. The Zarkan invasion had been swift and merciless, catching humanity off guard despite the growing suspicions of a few. Sarah Chen and Elena Vasquez huddled in the back of a military transport vehicle, speeding through the war-torn streets of what was once Washington, D.C. Their mission: to infiltrate a downed Zarkan ship on the outskirts of the city. "You really think we can hack their tech?" Sarah asked, checking her weapon for the 10th time. Elena nodded grimly. "We have to try. It's our only shot at evening the odds." As they approached the crash site, they saw the true extent of the aliens' destructive power. The ground was scorched for miles around, and the air was thick with acrid smoke. The ship itself was a twisted mass of metal, but parts of it still pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly light. "Stay sharp," Sarah warned as they disembarked. "We don't know if—" Her words were cut short by a high-pitched whine. A Zarkan scout, previously camouflaged against the wreckage, sprang to life. Its insectoid limbs moved with terrifying speed as it charged towards them. Sarah's training kicked in. She fired 3 precise shots, each one finding its mark in the creature's armored carapace. It fell, twitching, mere feet from where they stood. "Nice shooting," Elena breathed, her face pale. "Let's hope that was the only one," Sarah replied, but they both knew better. As they made their way into the ship, they encountered more of the alien soldiers. Each time, Sarah's quick reflexes and deadly aim kept them alive. But it was clear they were running out of time. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the ship's control center. Elena immediately set to work, her fingers flying over the alien interface as she attempted to decipher its secrets. "This is incredible," she muttered. Their entire system is based on quantum entanglement. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Sarah kept watch at the door, her nerves on edge. Can you use it? I think so, Elena replied. If I can just. There. A holographic display sprang to life, filling the room with swirling alien script. Elena's eyes darted back and forth, taking it all in. Sarah, this is bigger than we thought. The Zarkin, they're not just invading. They're harvesting. Harvesting what? Us, humans. Our consciousness, our very essence. They feed on it somehow. That's why they needed us alive and unsuspecting at first. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just an invasion. It was an existential threat to humanity itself. We need to get this information out, Sarah said. Can you transmit it? Elena nodded, her fingers already moving across the alien controls. I'm sending it to every receiver I can reach. But Sarah, I think I can do more than that. She explained her plan quickly. By reversing the quantum entanglement field that powered the Zarkin's technology, they might be able to create a feedback loop that would disrupt the alien systems worldwide. Do it, Sarah said without hesitation. As Elena worked, the ship around them began to shudder. Alarms blared in an alien tongue, and the sound of approaching Zarkin troops echoed through the corridors. How much longer? Sarah asked, taking up a defensive position. Almost there, Elena replied, her voice strained. Just a few more seconds. The first of the Zarkin soldiers burst through the doorway. Sarah's rifle barked, dropping it in its tracks, but more were right behind it. Elena, now. Got it. Elena slammed her hand down on the alien console. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a wave of energy pulsed outward from the ship, rippling through the air like heat haze. All around them, the Zarkin soldiers began to twitch and spasm. Their holographic disguises flickered and failed, revealing their true, horrific forms. But more than that, their weapons sputtered and died. Their communications fell silent. Sarah and Elena looked at each other in disbelief. It had worked. As word spread of the Zarkin's sudden vulnerability, humanity began to rally. From the ashes of defeated armies rose a global resistance movement. People from all walks of life took up arms against the invaders, now stripped of their technological advantage. In New York, a group of construction workers and engineers used their knowledge of the city's infrastructure to trap and eliminate the Zarkin patrol. In Tokyo, hackers turned the aliens' own communication systems against them, feeding false information that led entire battalions into ambushes. And in the mountains of Afghanistan, local tribes with centuries of guerrilla warfare experience taught resistance fighters from around the world how to strike fast and disappear into the landscape. But the fight was far from over. The Zarkin, though weakened, were far from defeated. Their numbers were vast, and they fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction. Every victory for humanity came at a steep cost in lives and resources. 2 months into the war, Sarah found herself leading a mixed unit of soldiers and civilians in a push to retake Chicago. The city had become a stronghold for the Zarkin, who had fortified themselves in the towering skyscrapers. Remember, she briefed her team, a diverse group that included former gang members, police officers, and suburban parents. They'll be expecting us to come from the ground. That's why we're not going to. Her plan was audacious. Using salvaged Zarkin anti-gravity technology, they would launch a surprise attack from above, dropping onto the rooftops and working their way down. As they soared over the city, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Despite everything, despite the overwhelming odds and the horrors they'd endured, humanity had not only survived but adapted. They'd taken the aliens' own technology and turned it against them in ways the Zarkin had never anticipated. The battle for Chicago was fierce and bloody. The Zarkin fought for every floor, every room. But in the end, it was the human capacity for improvisation and sheer dogged determination that won the day. As the last of the alien ships fled the city, trailing smoke and fire. Sarah allowed herself a moment of hope. They were turning the tide. Humanity was fighting back. But even as she celebrated with her troops, she knew the war was far from over. The Zarkans still held much of the planet, and there were rumors of massive reinforcements on the way. In a secure bunker beneath the ruins of Geneva, the leaders of the global resistance gathered to plan their next move. Scientists, military strategists, and civilian leaders from every corner of the world worked together, putting aside old rivalries in the face of extinction. Elena Vasquez, now head of a multinational team of researchers, presented their latest findings. "We've managed to reverse engineer more of the Zarkan technology," she explained. "We're on the verge of replicating their faster-than-light drive." A murmur of excitement ran through the room. With FTL capability, they could take the fight to the stars, perhaps even strike at the heart of the Zarkan Empire. But Sarah Chen, battle-hardened and wary, raised a note of caution. "We need to be careful," she warned. "The Zarkan underestimated us, and it gave us a chance. We can't make the same mistake." As the debate raged on, one thing became clear. The war for Earth was entering a new phase. Humanity had proven its resilience, its adaptability, its unwillingness to go quietly into the night. The Zarkan had come expecting easy prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, and now that giant was ready to fight back with everything it had. The war had raged for over a year. Earth, once a blue jewel suspended in space, now bore the scars of relentless conflict. Continents were pockmarked with the impact craters of Zarkan energy weapons, while vast swaths of land lay barren, contaminated by alien bioweapons. Yet, against all odds, humanity endured. In the cavernous war room beneath Geneva, holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data from across the globe. Major Sarah Chen, now General Chen, stood at the center, her face etched with the weariness of constant combat, but her eyes burning with determination. "The Zarkan are pulling back," she announced to the assembled leaders of the global resistance. "Our latest offensive has pushed them out of North America and most of Europe, but they're not retreating." Dr. Elena Vasquez, her lab coat exchanged for more practical combat fatigues, stepped forward. "They're consolidating their forces," she explained, manipulating the holographic display. "Our intelligence suggests they're massing for a major counterattack." The room erupted in worried murmurs. They had fought so hard for every inch of ground, and the thought of losing it all was almost too much to bear. "We can't let that happen." A gruff voice cut through the noise. It was Admiral Zhao of the newly formed United Earth Fleet. "It's time we took the fight to them." All eyes turned to the massive hologram at the center of the room. It showed Earth, surrounded by a network of hastily constructed orbital defense platforms. But beyond that, a new shape was taking form, a massive starship, unlike anything humanity had ever built before. "Project Phoenix," Elena said, her voice filled with a mix of pride and apprehension. "Our first true interstellar warship. With the FTL drive we reverse-engineered from Zarkan tech, we can finally strike at their supply lines, maybe even push all the way to their homeworld." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about defending Earth anymore. This was about taking the war to the stars. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "I know we're all tired. I know we've lost so much. But this is our chance to end this war once and for all. Who's with me?" The response was unanimous. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but now it was pushing back. Months passed in a flurry of preparation. All across the globe, factories that had once produced cars or consumer electronics now churned out spacecraft components and energy weapons. Children who had once dreamed of being doctors or teachers now trained as pilots and gunners. Sarah found herself at the helm of Phoenix, leading Earth's first extraterrestrial assault. As the massive ship broke free of Earth's gravity, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. They were about to go where no human had gone before, not in the spirit of exploration, but of desperate survival. "All systems go," Elena's voice came over the comm. She had insisted on coming along, arguing that her expertise with Zarkin tech might be crucial. FTL drive charging. Now, the stars around them blurred into streaks of light. In a heartbeat, they were beyond the solar system, pushing into the unknown reaches of the galaxy. Their first target was a Zarkan supply depot, orbiting a gas giant in a nearby star system. The element of surprise was total. The aliens had never imagined that their primitive human prey would be able to strike so far from Earth. Phoenix's weapons, a fusion of human ingenuity and adapted alien tech, tore through the Zarkan defenses. Within hours, the depot was a field of drifting debris. "Send the signal," Sarah ordered, her heart pounding. Back on Earth, the resistance waited with bated breath. The response came almost immediately. All across the planet, humanity launched its counteroffensive. As the Zarkan reeled from the loss of their supply lines, human forces surged forward. In the skies over what was once Beijing, squadrons of fighters dogfought with Zarkan craft. The human pilots, though outnumbered, flew with a ferocity and skill that left their alien opponents reeling. On the ground, tanks rolled across the African savanna, their guns booming as they engaged Zarkan walkers. The aliens' superior technology was countered by human tactics honed over centuries of warfare. And in orbit, the fledgling United Earth Fleet engaged the Zarkan armée. Ships traded salvos of energy weapons and missiles, the void of space lit up by explosions like silent fireworks. But the tide truly turned when humanity unveiled its secret weapon. In labs around the world, scientists had been working tirelessly to develop a countermeasure to the Zarkan's consciousness harvesting technology. As Elena activated the device aboard Phoenix, a wave of energy rippled out across space. On every battlefield, Zarkan soldiers suddenly stumbled, their neural networks disrupted. For the first time, the invaders knew fear. The battles raged for weeks. The Zarkan fought with the desperation of those who knew defeat meant extinction. But humanity, united as never before, fought with the strength of those defending their home, their very right to exist. Slowly but surely, the aliens were pushed back. City by city, country by country, Earth was reclaimed. Finally, after a climactic battle that left the skies over Paris glowing with the remnants of destroyed ships, the last Zarkan forces fled the solar system. As news of the victory spread, celebrations erupted around the world. People poured into streets still littered with rubble, weeping and laughing and embracing strangers. For the first time in years, the sound of bombs was replaced by cheers and songs. But Sarah Chen didn't celebrate. Standing on the bridge of Phoenix, she stared out at the star-studded blackness of space. "It's not over," she said quietly. Elena, standing beside her, nodded. "The Zarkan will be back. And next time, they'll be ready for us." Sarah's hand tightened on the railing. "Then we'll be ready for them. We've beaten them once. We can do it again." As Phoenix turned back towards Earth, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger than ever. They had not only survived but had taken their first steps into a larger, more dangerous universe. The Zarkan had sought to harvest humanity. Instead, they had forged it into something stronger, something that would soon be ready to claim its place among the stars. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the Zarkan were driven from Earth. The scars of war were still visible on the planet's surface, but they were gradually being erased by the determined efforts of a united humanity. Cities rose from the ashes, gleaming structures of steel and glass that incorporated salvaged alien technology. The night sky was no longer dark, instead twinkling with the lights of orbital habitats and shipyards. General Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen of the United Earth Fleet, stood on the observation deck of Starbase Unity, humanity's first deep space military installation. Before her stretched the vastness of space, punctuated by the sleek forms of warships on patrol. "Impressive, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez, now the head of the Interstellar Science Division. The years had added streaks of gray to her hair, but her eyes still sparkled with the same curiosity and intelligence. "Sometimes I can hardly believe how far we've come," Sarah admitted. 10 years ago, we were squabbling over borders. Now we're building colonies on other planets. Elena nodded, her expression turning serious. "But we can't afford to get complacent. The Zarkan are still out there." Their conversation was interrupted by a young officer who approached with a tablet in hand. "Admiral, Doctor, we've just received a transmission from the Orion colony. You'll want to see this." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a grainy image of an alien structure on a distant world. It was unmistakably Zarkan in origin, but it predated their invasion of Earth by centuries. "It's some kind of archive." Elena breathed, her eyes wide with excitement. "If we can decipher it, we might finally understand why they attacked us in the first place." Sarah's jaw tightened, "and maybe find a way to stop them for good." The discovery on Orion set off a new wave of exploration and military buildup. Humanity, once confined to a single world, now spread across dozens of star systems. Each new colony was a potential target, each new outpost a forward base in the coming war. But it wasn't just military might that humanity focused on. The crucible of war had forged unprecedented cooperation between nations and disciplines. Scientists worked alongside soldiers, artists with engineers, all united in the goal of ensuring human survival and prosperity. On Mars, vast biodomes now housed thriving communities, their residents working tirelessly to terraform the red planet. The asteroid belt had become a hive of industrial activity, with automated factories churning out starships and habitats. Even the moons of Jupiter and Saturn hosted research stations and military bases. Yet for all their progress, the specter of the Zarkan loomed large. Long-range probes brought back troubling data of increased activity at the fringes of known space. The enemy was rebuilding, preparing for another assault. In response, humanity pushed its technological development to new heights. The reverse-engineered Zarkan tech was just the beginning. Now, human scientists were making breakthroughs that even the aliens hadn't achieved. Dr. Vasquez led a team that cracked the secret of artificial gravity, allowing for the construction of vast orbital habitats that could house millions. Another group developed a new form of FTL communication, enabling real-time coordination across light years. But perhaps the most significant advancement came in the field of psionics. Building on the neural disruption technology used against the Zarkan, researchers discovered latent psychic abilities in a small percentage of the human population. Sarah watched with a mix of awe and trepidation as the first class of Psi soldiers demonstrated their abilities. They could communicate telepathically, move objects with their minds, even peer into the near future. It was a power that could turn the tide of the coming war, or tear humanity apart if misused. "We're playing with fire," Sarah confided to Elena one night as they shared a drink in her quarters aboard Starbase Unity. "All this power, all this technology. Are we any better than the Zarkan now?" Elena considered the question carefully before responding. "The difference is choice, Sarah. We're not using these advancements to conquer or harvest. We're using them to protect, to explore, to grow. That's what makes us human." Their conversation was cut short by an urgent communication. The Deep Space Listening Post had picked up a massive energy surge at the edge of charted space. The Zarkan were on the move. As klaxons blared and crews rushed to battle stations, Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. This was the moment they had been preparing for all these years. Humanity was ready. The United Earth Fleet assembled with a speed that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Ships jumped in from across human-controlled space, forming up into battle groups. At their center was the UES Defiant, humanity's most advanced warship, under Sarah's direct command. As the fleet moved out to meet the Zarkan Armada, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. The terrified, fractured humanity that had faced the first invasion was gone. In its place was a united, determined species ready to claim its place in the galaxy. The first shots were fired light years from Earth. Energy beams lanced across the void, while swarms of fighter craft engaged in dogfights that spanned entire star systems. The Zarkan fought with all the ferocity and technological superiority that had nearly conquered Earth a decade ago. But humanity was no longer the easy prey they remembered. Human ships danced through the chaos of battle, their movements predicted and guided by psionic navigators. Experimental weapons tore holes in space-time, swallowing entire enemy squadrons. On the ground, human colonies stood firm against Zarkan landing forces. Psi soldiers turned the aliens' own minds against them, while ordinary citizens fought with a determination born from the knowledge that defeat meant extinction. The war raged across dozens of star systems, a conflict on a scale that dwarfed anything in human history. But slowly, inevitably, humanity began to push the Zarkan back. It was during the battle for the Sirius system that the tide truly turned. Elena, working with a team of xenorchaeologists, had finally deciphered the Zarkan archive found years ago. What they discovered changed everything. The Zarkan, it turned out, were not the implacable conquerors humanity had believed them to be. They were refugees, the last survivors of a civilization that had been wiped out by an even greater threat, a threat that was now approaching from the depths of intergalactic space. As this revelation spread through the human forces, the nature of the war changed. What had been a fight for survival became a desperate race against time. Humanity now faced a choice: continue their war with the Zarkan, or forge an alliance to face the greater danger lurking in the cosmic dark. Sarah Chen, standing on the bridge of the Defiant, made her decision. As Zarkan ships closed in around them, she opened a channel. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet." She broadcast on all frequencies. "To all Zarkan forces, we know the truth. We know what you're running from. It's time we stopped fighting each other and united against the real enemy." For a moment, the battle hung in the balance. Then, slowly, the Zarkan ships powered down their weapons. A new chapter in galactic history was about to begin. Humanity and their former enemies, united against a threat that endangered all sentient life. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with mistrust and the wounds of past conflict. But as Sarah looked out at the stars, she felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had survived its trial by fire. They had proven their worth among the stars. And now, they would fight not just for their own survival, but for the future of all life in the galaxy. The Zarkan had come to harvest humanity. Instead, they had forged an alliance that would shake the foundations of the cosmos. The galaxy held its breath. In the 5 years since the uneasy alliance between humanity and the Zarkan was forged, the combined fleets had pushed back the encroaching darkness. But now, on the edge of the Milky Way, they faced their greatest challenge. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, the most advanced ship ever created by the combined efforts of human and Zarkan engineers. Beside her, the Zarkan High Commander Zixath clicked its mandibles nervously. "They're coming," Zixath said, its translator conveying a mix of fear and determination. Sarah nodded grimly. "The Void Hunters. May whatever gods exist have mercy on us all." The Void Hunters. That was the name they had given to the cosmic horror that had driven the Zarkan from their home galaxy, a force of pure entropy, consuming all in its path, leaving only the cold emptiness of space in its wake. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice crackled over the comm. "Admiral, the quantum entanglement drive is ready. If this works, we might just have a chance." Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. The culmination of years of preparation, of two species setting aside their differences in the face of annihilation. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Commence Operation Starforge." Across the vast emptiness of space, thousands of ships, human and Zarkan alike, moved into formation. At the center of their array, a massive construct began to pulse with energy. The Starforge was humanity's magnum opus, a machine capable of harnessing the power of a supernova. If it worked, it would create a barrier of pure energy, sealing off the approach of the Void Hunters. If it failed, the Milky Way was doomed. As the energy buildup reached critical levels, the first wave of Void Hunters appeared. They defied description, massive, shadowy forms that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around them. Where they passed, stars winked out of existence. Hold the line. Sarah's voice rang out across all frequencies. For Earth, for Zarkan, for life itself. The battle that followed would be sung about for millennia to come. Human Psi soldiers linked minds with Zarkan hive clusters, coordinating attacks with impossible precision. Experimental weapons tore holes in reality, briefly pushing back the encroaching darkness. But for every Void Hunter destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The Defenders' lines began to buckle under the relentless assault. In the heart of the Starforge, Elena worked feverishly alongside a team of human and Zarkan scientists. Sweat beaded on her brow as she made final adjustments to the quantum matrix. "We're out of time," she muttered. "It's now or never." With trembling fingers, she initiated the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a flash that outshone 1,000 suns, the Starforge came to life. A wave of pure energy exploded outward, washing over the battlefield. Where it touched the Void Hunters, they simply ceased to exist, erased from reality itself. But the power unleashed was beyond anything they had anticipated. As the energy wave expanded, it began to warp and twist the very fabric of space-time. "It's tearing a hole in the universe." Zixath chittered in alarm. Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a door. A door to somewhere beyond their comprehension. In that moment, she made a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Prepare for emergency jump. We're going through." Zixath turned its compound eyes to her. "Through? But we don't know what's on the other side." Sarah met its gaze steadily. "Whatever it is, it's got to be better than certain death here. Sometimes, to survive, you have to take a leap of faith." As the remnants of the combined fleet plunged into the swirling vortex, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. From a primitive species confined to a single world, humanity had risen to stand alongside the stars. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had turned enemies into allies. And now, they were about to embark on the greatest adventure of all. The transition was indescribable. For what felt like an eternity and no time at all, the fleet hung suspended in a realm beyond space and time. When they emerged, it was into a universe reborn. Stars burned with colors they had never seen before. The laws of physics themselves seemed subtly altered, and all around them they sensed the presence of something. Not the cold emptiness of the Void Hunters, but a vast, benevolent intelligence. As the sensors struggled to make sense of their new surroundings, a message appeared simultaneously in every mind. Human and Zarkan alike. "Welcome, children of the young universe. You have passed the test." Slowly, understanding dawned. The Void Hunters, the war, even the initial Zarkan invasion, it had all been a crucible. A test to see if life in their universe was ready to take the next step in cosmic evolution. And they had passed. In the years that followed, humanity and the Zarkan would explore this new realm together. They would encounter wonders beyond imagination and face challenges that would test them in new ways. But they would face it all united, two species forged in the fires of adversity into something greater than the sum of their parts. As for Sarah Chen, she stood on the observation deck of the horizon, gazing out at a sky filled with possibilities. Beside her, Elena and Zixath joined her in contemplative silence. "You know," Sarah said at last, "when I joined the military all those years ago, I never imagined it would lead to this." Elena chuckled. "Who could have? We've come so far." Zixat's mandibles clicked in what they had come to recognize as its version of a smile. Indeed. And yet, I suspect our greatest adventures are still to come. As they stood there, on the threshold of a new era for all sentient life, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had not merely survived. They had thrived. They had taken their place among the stars and proven themselves worthy of the cosmos. The harvest that the Zarkand had intended had instead yielded a crop beyond anyone's wildest dreams. And now, together, they would sow those seeds across eternity. The end was just the beginning.